With my recent series of videos on 5G, I thought it was an appropriate time to have a discussion about what the regulatory sciences are. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. So, the title of this video is What Are the Regulatory Sciences? And this video, even before I taped that series of videos on the dangers, or should I say the potential dangers of 5G, I had already written a blog post maybe 1 or 2 years ago about what the regulatory sciences are. And here in the DMV, when I introduce myself and what I do, I tell people that I am a regulatory scientist. And it turns out that a lot of people don't know what that is, especially those in my community, where there's already a minority of scientists with regards to the entire African American population. I have a lot of people tell me that I am the first scientist that they've ever met. So I thought this would be an appropriate time to talk about what the regulatory sciences are. And it's an important discussion, especially in terms of not just public knowledge, but also in terms of scientists, young scientists who are coming up and thinking about potential career options. And I didn't know, yeah, again, when I was a graduate student training, well, even at the undergraduate level at Johnson C. Smith University, and then working on my thesis at the University of Michigan, I had no idea what the regulatory sector was and what the regulatory sciences were. I had a fellow student who worked in my lab who came over from Pfizer, and he wanted to do his PhD. And throughout our arduous and challenging research days, there were times when I communicated to him. I said, you know what, I'm not sure I want to do research for the rest of my life. I realized what research was about, and I realized that you had to have a love for that part of science to do it full time. And I was having doubts about whether or not I loved the research aspect as much. And I was thinking about other things I could do with my science training. By the way, since leaving graduate school, I have more of an appreciation for the research side than when I was a student and a postdoc. And I intend to make videos about what it was like doing my thesis and the ups and the downs and all of the challenges and the good, the bad, and the ugly. But in any case, my fellow student, who's a good friend now, he kept saying, you can go into regulatory, you can go into regulatory, you can go into regulatory. And because I didn't have a background on what that was, I didn't really know what he meant by that. So I'm going to leave that blog post in the description box below so you can go in and read it yourself. I wrote that up to be very simple and hopefully very understandable for the general public. So regulatory scientists work in private sector companies, so drug companies like Pfizer and Merck and AbbVie, and that's just the pharmaceutical sector. But they also work in chemical companies like Dow and Syngenta and BASF. Regulatory scientists work in agricultural companies, companies that produce things like GMO crops. They work in electronics companies. They work in energy companies. Regulatory scientists are wherever there are products that are being created for consumption by the general public. So you have regulatory scientists in private companies, and you also have regulatory scientists in the government at the federal and state levels. And also, you have some regulatory scientists who have started their own consulting companies. So this is a very big world with far-reaching effects and implications for all parties involved. Some regulatory scientists also work in independent capacities and organizations as well. So these scientists and individuals are everywhere. So just briefly, regulatory scientists and officials are responsible for determining the safety of products generated for consumption by the general public. So I have a pharmacology background, so I know this best. So I will focus the discussion towards pharmaceuticals. So think about the drugs you take every day. So something like Viagra, which is now its patent has expired, so it's now considered a generic. Extensive research had to go into not only how the drug would do what it does. I think everyone knows what Viagra does, but extensive research had to also go into the safety of the pharmaceutical and the potential toxicities and the potential drug interactions once men started popping these things. And so that means that there were scientists within Pfizer who had to start asking certain questions about its safety, and then there were scientists over in the Food and Drug Administration who had to ask certain questions about the drug once Pfizer submitted its application to start selling the drug to us. So there are regulatory scientists in the companies and regulatory scientists in government, and the two have to work together to assure that the products are safe before me and you can consume them. And this is for every drug, whether it's a statin, whether it's a some sort of antihypertensive, or whether it's some sort of allergy medication. Safety has to be considered on both sides, on the private sector and the public sector. Let's see. So regulatory scientists have backgrounds in their particular field. So, in my instance, if you're talking about drugs, those scientists in the company and in the governments have backgrounds in pharmacology and toxicology and physiology and whichever specialty that's required for that particular molecule. So it could be inhalation toxicology, it could be cancer pharmacology, it could be some sort of immunotoxicology. So there are scientists in the company and in the government who have backgrounds in those areas that are knowledgeable and qualified in terms of answering questions about that drug's safety profile. So you can extrapolate that out into other areas, such as the chemical industry, in areas such as pesticides, or any household cleaners or products. There are scientists who are knowledgeable in those areas and who can do things like look at chemical structures and ask questions about, that has a double ring structure, or it has a ketone, or it has an aldehyde in it, that might cause cancer. There are scientists in those entities asking questions about that. So regulatory scientists are governed by regulations. And what regulations are laws and statutes that literally dictate what testing is needed. And so the scientists in the private sector, they have a feel for, or should I say, it's spelled out for them for a given product what they need to test and how they need to test it in order to give the scientists in the government an understanding of the safety of that chemical. And the scientists in the government and in the public sector, if they're doing their jobs correctly, they can reject applications for new products if the products are deemed unsafe, or if the private sector scientists have not done an adequate job in terms of informing the safety of their product. And that's what I was trying to say at the end of my 5G video. And that's that there are scientists in the private sector who have, in addition to identifying that, okay, this is a new and novel technology that can do these numerous things and these wonderful things for us, but we've also tested its safety profile. And so there are scientists in the regulatory sector who know about radiology and radiation and the human health effects, who have looked at this stuff as well, and who have given the green light to start using this technology. And I pointed that out in my video. So here's the thing here, and I'm going to end with this. An important piece of this is public trust. And so it's one thing for me to sit on here and say that there are scientists in the private sector and scientists in the public sector who are checking for the safety of these things and who are working on our behalf to keep us safe while these things get implemented. But then the question is, does the public trust its government officials in the private sector to put the safety of the population first when bringing these things to market? And as I said in that video, the answer sometimes is no. There's often mistrust on the part of the public and the general population towards their government and towards private sector companies. I'm going to read something here, and this was from over on Dr. Boyce Watkins' Blag Enough platform. And Blag Enough is I think Dr. Watkins was having some issues with his content over on Facebook. And so he created this alternative platform where we can go and share information. And as a scientist, I wanted to share some of my content over there, as we are underrepresented in the STEMs. And I knew that there would be reaction to this 5G stuff, but someone posted this comment. I'm going to leave her anonymous, but it says, "Anwar, thanks for the information you have provided. As a professional researcher, it is imperative to triangulate and have sufficient data in studying the issues. However, the problem with the regulatory sector is transparency and failure to take precautionary measures even when evidentiary data is available. Our government is notorious for its reactionary response after irreversible damage, i.e. COVID-19, AI, climate change, Katrina, etc. It behooves the regulatory sector instead to take a proactive stance to prevent and first do harm to humans. Failure to do so is suspected to be intentional and genocidal. History has a way of repeating itself in different forms." I'm going to read those last two sentences again because it was worded kind of and I'm funny, and I'm not sure I read it correctly. It behooves the regulatory sector instead to take a proactive stance to prevent and first do harm to humans. Failure to do so is suspected to be intentional and genocidal. History has a way of repeating itself in different forms. That one sentence is kind of funny, and I'm still wondering if it's either the way she wrote it or the way it reads. But in any case, transparency is a big thing here, and trust from the public is a big component to this whole thing. And when government policies, when those sitting at the top are not transparent about the science, and when it seems that products are being rushed to market without enough research, certain individuals become distrustful, and fear and anxiety start to build. So a major challenge of the regulatory sector and the regulatory sciences is earning and then maintaining the trust of the general public. So with that, I'm going to conclude this video. The regulatory scientists that I know, again, I work in this sector, are hardworking and trustworthy individuals, and we're always checking after each other. I'm not going to say exactly which part I work in, but I do work in the sector. But the people that I know are hardworking and do their best to protect human health. So I'm going to stop there. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.